So first, thank you for the invitation. We really appreciate to show you what is going on here in Grenoble. So we are going to talk about the all-season training with a 1080 sprint in a professional rugby environment. You can see on this photo the team during the pre-season camp this summer. It's a group of 48 players between 19 and 33, 34 years old. So to introduce my friends, here you have Patrick Chassain. He's a strength and conditioning coach. He's driving a PhD on neuromuscular rugby training since 3 years now. My name is Benjamin Simond-Cote. I'm a speed and conditioning coach. I'm working with the 1080 sprint since 4 years now. And you have Robin, who is a rehab and conditioning coach. He's a GPS specialist, and he is going to drive a PhD on the force velocity profile in situ. It's going to come soon. Just to start, it's important to show we have many phenomenal partnerships who help us a lot in all our works. So to start, it's important for us to show you our training philosophy. We are doing speed in the gym and on the field. We have a good training center with a big synthetic field. Like that, we can combine the gym session and the speed sessions all along the year, even during winter, because winter are very hard here in Grenoble. But with this center, it's good for us to work on the speed all along the season. That's why we are doing speed training minimum twice a week and every week of the season. For us, it's very important if you decide to start training process on the velocity, you need to be regular all along the season. If you stop for a big time, you break everything you build since the beginning of the season. The two next points are working together. For us, if there is no feedback or no competition, it's not a speed session, because a speed session is a maximal effort. So if you don't give feedback or if there is no competition, you are just down below or quite below. So if there is not all these components, it's not a speed session for us. Then, is your training effective? You must measure every week and every session. Because with this kind of process, you need to be able to see if your training is effective. And if it's not, you must change something, retry, retest, and see if it works better. We work like that all along the season and since 4 years now.
Okay. Quickly on the theoretical aspect, the force velocity profile in sprinting gives us two main indicators, F0 and V0. F0 characterizes the ability to generate force horizontally at low speed, and V0 characterizes the ability to generate force horizontally at high speed. As you can see from the graph on the right, these two qualities are completely dissociated. Being strong at high speed and being strong at low speed are two completely different neuromuscular qualities. Obviously, the training strategy for these two qualities will also be different. Dependent on the strength and the weakness of each player, training reinforced in certain target areas. The assisted or resisted sprint training allows us to spend how much time as possible in the target zone. For example, a sprint without load allows you to stay around half a second in the target power, while the training via 1080 allows you to stay 2 or 3 seconds in the target power here. Likewise, overspeed training via 1080 allows you to stay at maximum speed for a longer period of time compared to 30 or 40 meter sprint. Now, I show you only the group of forward professionals. For example, they use the median F0 F0 makes it possible to build 4 subgroups to be prioritized. We can see that the four subgroups are not the same size and do not have the same mechanical priority. In terms of training, the 4 subgroups bring us at 4 different priority training sessions, like you can see on the graph.
So now that Pat show you some theory points, I'm going to talk about the content on the field. We're going to give you all what we do during all season with the players. So first, I'm going to start with the first part of the preseason, but I'm going to be quick on this part because it represents 3 or 4 weeks, and the rest of the season is around 40 weeks. So it's a very small part, but it's important for us to present that because we want to show you that we don't use the 1080 just to put the players above their top speed. We also use that to back them to 90% of personal power with the 1080 in resistance and get them back at 100% of top speed, with the 1080 in assistance. It's a very, very good tools to be more progressive when you come back for off season, and you take less risk doing this kind of process. For the power session, it's very simple session. We are using the 1080 with resistance on 10 meters, on gear 2 with 20 to 30 kg. You see, it's a very heavy resistance. We are doing that twice a week, and the volume is between 3 and 5 sprints per session, and we contrast every sprint with a free sprint. For the top speed sessions, we are using the 1080 in assistance on 20-30 meters. We are limiting the top speed of the players for the first part, for the first session at 80% of their top speed, and then we increase week after week to finish on the last week at 100% of their top speed. The assistance is between 4 to 6 kg, and we are doing 2 or 3 sprints per session. During this first part, we are working on power and top speed in the same sessions twice a week. Now I'm going to talk about the rest of the season. So the biggest part of our job, I told you it's around 40 weeks of the season. So it's a very, very long period. The objective of this period is to chase your personal best on power, chase your top speed personal best, and chase your 10 meters, 30 meters personal best. To do that, we have 3 different formats of week. I'm gonna show you all the content of every session, but it's important for you to see the whole picture like that. In week 1, we are doing light acceleration, then heavy top speed. In week 2, we are doing heavy acceleration, then light top speed. And in week 3, like Pat explained you just before, we are individualizing, depend of your force velocity profile, and we finish with a testing session. In week 1, the acceleration, so light acceleration on this week 1, that means we are using the 1080 in resistance on 20 meters. So resistance is between 5 to 15 kg in gear 1. The volume is between 3 and 5 reps, and we are superset that with free sprints on 15 or 20 meters. The feedback I give to the players on this kind of session is the top speed they reach on the 5 best meters. So here you can see it's a very good combination between power and velocity on this kind of session. The session 2 of this week is about top speed, and it's a heavy top speed session. We are using the 1080 assistance on 30 to 40 meters with the heavy assistance between 7 to 10 kg. The volume is between 3 and 4 reps, and we superset that with a 10 meters fly top speed. The feedback I give them is the top speed, the 5 best meters top speed they achieved. And the objective for the guys is to be between 10 to 15% above their top speed. For the week 2, the acceleration session is now AV acceleration. 1080 resistance on 10 meters, 20 to 30 kg gear 2, 3 to 5 rep, and we superset that like every time with a free sprint on 10 meters. The feedback I give them is the maximal power they achieved on the 5 best meters. The session 2 is about top speed, but now it's a light top speed session. What does it mean? It means everybody start with 6 kg of assistance. They need to stay 5% above their top speed. So if they succeed with 6 kg, on the next sprint, they start with 5 kg. And then if they succeed, 4 kg. And I decrease like that until they fail to stay 5% above their top speed. And then we superset with 10 meters fly, like every time. To finish the third week, I told you before, the session 1 is about individualization. So if you are unbalanced in force, in F0, you are doing again the 1080 resistance with 20-30 kg. It's a heavy assistance on 10 meters, and you do 3 to 4 reps. If you are unbalanced in velocity, in V0, you are doing again the AV assistance session. And then we finish the third week with the testing session. So we are sorry, guys, but we are not testing with the 1080 sprint. We are testing with the Radar Stalker 2. First, we did this choice because of the PhD of Pat. And we know there is many coaches who are testing with the 1080. Us, we did this choice, and we are very happy with that, but it's not the only solution. So now Pat are going to talk about the result of this kind of process.
So now the result of this work. As part of my thesis, we will be following the sprint performance as a force velocity profile of professional rugby player for 3 years. Initially, during the first years of classic training, this is to say without individualization, athletes perform better in pre-season compared to in season. You can see very clearly in red, very different comportment. The data decrease between pre-season and in-season. Conversely, during the 2 individualized years, the performance in season is better compared at pre-season. The same you can see is very different. The data grow up. If you look the second years in green and the last years in blue, is very different compared to the red line.
Just it's important to mention that we have a very long championship and we are playing around 30 games in season.
Secondary, maybe the most important, the evolution of the Pmax over a classic years for professional rugby team compared to 2 years of individualized training, there is a performance improve of 13%. For professional athletes, this level adaptation is high. The evolution of time in the other side, in the right, over 30 meters, over a classic year, compared to 2 years of individualist training with your performance improvement of 3.8%. The same for professional athletes, the level of adaptation is high. If you look compared to the first years, it's a very good result.
So now quickly, I'm going to present you what we are doing on the game day, because we are not just using the 1080 on training session. On the game day, we do a potentiation. So it's a very simple format. It's 1080 resistance, 15 kg gear 1, 10 meters, 3 to 4 sprints. And we give a feedback on power. And it's included in a training circuit. So we can see the players, they really enjoy this kind of work. We are doing that 4 hours before the game, and they can feel a real difference in the neural activations they get a few hours before the games.
So let's talk now about 1080 sprint and return to play aspect. We use the 1080 sprint in our rehab process, and we have 3 guidelines for this. The first part is put back the athlete back at a high F0. The studies have reported a change on the force velocity profile and a decrease after an hamstring muscle injury. So the target is to put back that F0, that parameter, to a high level before putting him back with the team. The second aspect is put back symmetry at the athlete before he starts back with the team. And the last thing is bringing back to his top speed. Make sure he can sprint safely before he goes back on the pitch. So let's talk about the first parameter with the high F0 process. The philosophy here is to bring very early movement at the athlete after the injury. For example, on an hamstring injury, we introduce some athletic drills, day 2, day 3 after the injury. As soon as he can, we work on this horizontal force production at low velocity. The goal is to start as soon as we can to make sure he reach his high F0 as soon as we can. Then we go back to acceleration with some resisted athletic drills. We use the 1080 on the gear 1 and then the gear 2 with some athletic drills where we put not so much stress, mechanical stress on the hamstrings, but we keep going on this horizontal force production. We give a lot of volume of acceleration at under maximal intensity, and we go from 1080 sprint gear 1 to gear 2 progressively. The last aspect of this process is bring the athlete at power max, at Pmax. We start to use only the gear 2 for this aspect, and we work on 10 meters from 20 to 30 kgs. The goal of this is to work at the base load for the athlete to produce his max power. We superset this with some 10-meter free sprints, and we are looking to get closer to the personal best. That's why this is very important for our process to have the data before injury, and that's why this is very important to record every session of every weeks on the season. For example, here we can see a player with 2 different tests. On the first one, we can see a poor F0. For us, athletes with an F0 under 7 is quite low for the rugby players that we can have, and for sure a very high V0. After this test at the end of September, he had an hamstring injury maybe 1 month after this. So we had to go into the process that I just presented. And 2 months after this, he came back on the team with an 8.4 F0. That is very significant increasement for us and gives us more security for putting him back with the team. The second aspect interesting is we can see a high Pmax for this player. The second aspect of the return to play process is put the athlete back at top speed. So once the athlete is able to have good acceleration on 10 meters, we increase the distance and bring some more mechanical stress on the hamstrings. We start with low resistance, 15 to 20 meter acceleration, which is a good combination between power and speed. And step by step, we introduce some assisted sprint, here from 20 to 30 meters. We use first the speed limitation at 75–80%, and step by step, days after days, week after week, we put this level higher to put him back at 100% of his top speed. The last aspect of this is make sure the athlete can sprint without any assistance, and what is his level. So at the end of the rehab process, we measure with the radar to see the effectiveness of the training. The last aspect of the return to play process is bring back the athlete's balance. So we start with low speed single leg exercises like lunges, assisted or resisted. For example, single leg extensive jump. And we try to detect the differences of power output. For example, here on a classic run of 10 meters, we can see imbalance between the two legs on the curves. So this is an indicator for us to work a bit more on this aspect. Then, when the athlete is going good at low speed exercises, we bring back some plyometrics, acceleration, and change of direction. We put some high resistance acceleration, some single leg heavy resisted or also assisted jumps in function of his needs. And we start to play with the change of directions aspect. The 1080 sprint is not only a very good development tool, but this is also a very good prevention tool for us. Like we said, this is very important to have a high F0 for us to prevent hamstring injury. It seems like there is a link between hamstring strength and the horizontal force that we produce on an acceleration. There are some articles, very interesting, of Pascal Edouard, JB Morin, Samosino, Mendigucha, that shows this. So we give a very important aspect of the prevention of hamstring injuries with this parameter. The second aspect of prevention for us is make the athlete sprint every week. Like Ben explained to you, we make the player sprint every week. We look for 92% minimum of his top speed each week. So this is a very good challenge. Make sure the athlete spends some time at top velocity to prevent some injury. And the last aspect of this is because we can measure everything with the 1080, we can detect some deficit between right leg, left leg, for example, but we also detect fatigue. For example, a guy playing 4-5 games in 4-5 weeks in a row, we can see his performance going lower and lower and lower. And this is a good tool for us to pulling out of the group maybe for 1 week, let him regenerate a little, and after pulling back with the team. The result of all this process is we can see on 3 seasons decrease of the hamstring injuries that we can have. We had 11 injuries on the season 18-19, and we had last season only 7 injuries. For sure, this number is a result of a lot of parameters, but for sure, we believe that make the athlete sprint, protect him of hamstring injuries. On the same time, we can see that we work more and more on the F0 aspect when we are doing the RTP process, but the time that the athletes spend on the RTP group with the injured boys is quite the same than 3 years ago when we are doing less of this work. So this is very interesting for us. So that's it for us.
All right, it's okay for us. So you can see our contact if you have a few questions in the future. And then if you have some question right now, we still have a few minutes for you.
Guys, fantastic. I know Ola's popping on here. He may have a question for you, but I love what you did with the hamstrings and how you displayed that. As a physio myself, I really enjoyed how you set that up and showed the research behind it, that you've had a decrease in those hamstring injuries as well. So very good.
Did any questions come up in the Q&A? No. All right. No. I thought great presentation, guys. And I really enjoyed the how you bridged performance and enhancing performance and taking that return to play, injury prevention, return to sport into the same thing, because then I think you have a better buy-in from the athletes for sure. So it's not like something different, but they're doing the same thing in terms of performance. Again, if there's a little background noise, my apologies. One question in that return to play, return to sport process, do you use, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but do you use loading to slow the athlete down, or do you use distance? Because I know Mending Shua has used, I probably pronounce his name horribly wrong, but I know he has used distance to make sure that they don't assume as great speeds. Do you use load for the same purpose, to slow them down?
On the first part of the process, we use distance. We don't go above 10 meters on the first part of the process. And when we start to increase the distance, we use the loading and we limit the velocity of the athlete to make sure that he don't go above this velocity. And we make this improve step by step. Great.
No, I think I've been, it makes total logical sense. So I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful perspective to throw in there.
Thank you, gents.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It was really good. You did great. So thank you for joining us today.